Welcome to Truth Talk Live.
All right, let's talk.
The truth is, I can't hide it, I can't hold it no more.
A daily program powered by the Truth Network,
This is kind of a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
where pop culture, current events, and theology all come together.
Speak
Your mind.
And now, here's today's Truth Talk Live host.
Super Bowl 60 in 2026. Do you ever see these sixes and just saying? Anyway, what an amazing opportunity to have a discussion with our audience. I mean, it happened on a Sunday night. A lot of folks just struggle with the fact that people are watching the Super Bowl rather than attending their Sunday night services. Other people outraged by the commercials. Other people outraged by the performance at the halftime, Bad Bunny as it was. Or maybe you're outraged by what happened at Turning Points.
And some people are outraged about how boring the Super Bowl was.
Now.
Am I jumping ahead?
Oh, could be. But anyway, here's our question today. We would love for you, I really, really would, any comment you might have on the whole subject would be terrific. But simply put, what does it mean to be in the world but not of the world when it comes to watching secular entertainment? We would love your content. You know, what do you think about that, or anything along the lines of what we just described? 866, the number to call in and share. 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. You can't say that isn't something about the obvious 127.7 million people watch this event. And so, you know, it's certainly an opportunity for us to see the culture. But wonderfully, we have we have John with us in New York City, from what I understand, who is a friend of yours, Dr. Carson.
Yes.
And so, John, welcome to Truth Talk Live. Or Pastor John, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct, Robbie. Thanks for having me on, Dwayne. Good to talk to you again, my friend.
Yes, sir.
And so I love what I've been told is your perspective. I really, really do. Because, you know, it's hard for us that don't speak Spanish necessarily to know, you know, kind of what the halftime show was about.
Sure. Well, we were invited over. First of all, I pastor a multicultural church in New York City. And so we have anywhere from 30 to 40 different nationalities represented every single weekend. So because of
You
that,
said
I
that kind
have-
of fast. Hold on, John. Say that
Sure.
slower. Let everybody hear how many different cultures show up at your church every Sunday.
We see between 30 and 40 different nationalities represented in our congregation every weekend.
Wow.
And so because of that, we have exposure to so many different cultural realities. And we have the opportunity to extend and to receive hospitality from people within our congregation from a wide different perspective. And we were invited over to a Puerto Rican family's home for the Super Bowl to watch it. So my wife and my 3 kids, we went over, and there were other families from our church that gathered. So the hospitality was unmatched. The food was unbelievable. We had pernil, roast pork, and all kinds. It was amazing. And then when the halftime show started, the Puerto Rican family turned the volume wide open and proceeded to gather around the television and to watch the primary halftime show with an artist I'd never heard of before called Bad Bunny. And we sat with this family, and they began to translate some of the things that were happening on the screen that otherwise we'd had no concept of what it meant. They talked about how those men on the power lines represents one of the challenges of Puerto Rico is they have all kinds of difficulty getting power. And they translated how one of the shop owners is a representation of someone in Brooklyn that's in a Puerto Rican neighborhood, and that she is just well known. And so they just helped us get a much more rich understanding of Puerto Rican culture by sitting and watching the halftime show with them. Now, they don't endorse, nor do I, everything that this artist Bad Bunny has ever said or sung or done by any means. But yet there was an opportunity to love and appreciate and even celebrate elements of Puerto Rican culture that are represented in my church and represented in my city. So all in all, I really enjoyed the afternoon with this family.
Yeah, and what a neat perspective, right? And so, for those of us who watched it, there was this whole marriage scene. Was that incorporated? What were they trying to? There was an engagement scene where apparently, and then they were married.
Yeah, the couple had invited him to their wedding, and so then they decided to do the wedding there, as I understood it.
Oh, that was actually happening?
Yes, that wedding was legit.
John,
that was my understanding. That was my understanding as well, and that so much of this was a celebration of Puerto Rican culture and representative of that.
And so that's just absolutely amazing to me that you got a chance to experience that from just a completely different level than most of us would have, because I was like, man, I wish this wasn't in Spanish. I have no idea what everybody's saying or what's going on. But clearly a lot of people embraced it.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Robbie, I love the way you've couched this episode, is that how to be in the world but not of the world. And I tend to believe that the gospel challenges certain assumptions of every culture, and it also affirms certain elements of every culture. And I think we as gospel-believing Christians need to celebrate and affirm that which we can, but at the same time be prepared to challenge and even correct those things that we cannot. And the only way we're able to do that is if we're in the world while not being stained by the world. I think that's what Jesus had in mind in Matthew chapter 5, where he said, let your light so shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father which is in heaven. And the implication there is that you've got to be in the darkness for the light to shine. And I'm not saying our friend's home by any means was dark. They love Jesus and they're wonderful people. But I am saying that if we're so afraid to be anywhere near anything that might be sinful, then we find ourselves isolating from the world and having no impact.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, right? And we talked about that before the show, right, Doc? That, and for those who don't know, Dr. Carson's with me here this evening. But the idea that, right, if you don't go into the dark, there's no way you can share the light. Mm-hmm. And it's a real challenge because sometimes it's uncomfortable in there. But I really celebrate 30 to 40, I think is what you said, actually, different nationalities and cultures. And, it's interesting, and just what I can relate to when I was the general manager of Crown Honda Volvo in Chapel Hill, because Chapel Hill had that same type of element to it, mm-hmm. where there were people coming in all the time from, all sorts of different places like Russia. And we had a Russian salesman spoke fluent Chinese because.
Wow. I wasn't ready for that.
He was, but a lot of people in Russia, because they're so close to China,
right.
And so he was invaluable to us because he could relate to both, obviously Russian people that came in, but also the Chinese. He spoke 3 or 4 different dialects of Chinese, and it's fascinating to think that, what are our churches doing to reach all these different cultures, John? And I just think that that's the ultimate experience, man, to be able to go over there and enjoy that Super Bowl at your friend's house, at your member's house.
Well, it is a tremendous joy to belong to a multicultural church. I'll be honest. It is a tremendous joy because you get to see the way the gospel affects people in their cultural context, and it also is a foreshadowing of what we're going to see in Revelation 7, when every tribe, tongue, nation, and language gather around before the throne and before the Lamb. And so we get a little slice of heaven. Now, it's not easy. We have to work very, very hard to maintain the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace, as Ephesians 3 says, whenever there's so many different cultural elements and cultural classes that exist from time to time as well. But it is absolutely worth it to fight for unity amongst this multicultural church congregation. And we do all we can to try to show hospitality and receive hospitality as much as possible in this context.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. What's the name of your church, John?
It's called Salem Church. It's on the North Shore of Staten Island, and we're a two campus church, and we exist to make disciples and multiply churches. And God's blessing our work here.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for calling in today, John. We got Jamal calling, but you might have a view. We would love to hear it. By the way, whatever it is, 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. What say you? What does it mean to be of the world Now, what does it mean to be in the world but not of the world? Let's put that right, Robbie.
Let's get that right,
We'll be
Robbie.
right back.
Thank you again, John.
Truth Talk Live.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Today's show, we're talking Super Bowl 60 for 2026. You know, what are your thoughts about the commercials? What are your thoughts about, you know, the halftime performances, whether it was the one with Bad Bunny or maybe you saw the one at Turning Point? You know,
Or
we got
maybe something else.
Or yeah, I mean, maybe you got to vote on which commercial was number one in your boing, whatever that may be. We would love to hear. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. You know, we have USA Today told us what the number one rated commercial was amongst, you know, their survey, and I would happen to
And
agree.
I would love to know, because whenever there's a commercial, I change the channel.
Do you really? Or, you know, maybe your view is, well, I don't know. We got Jamal, and he's got a view for us. So, Jamal, you're on Truth Talk Live. What's your thoughts?
Thank you guys for taking my call, and I'm so glad you're picking up this topic. I've been on social media having a few different, let's say, spirited debates. I've become pretty staunch in just a standard for everybody. I don't like I don't like where some of the paths are going, and this is one of them. For the past few Super Bowls, it's been a rap music infused Super Bowl halftime show. And you like that music, I guess that can be accepted in some areas. However, we're talking about a nationwide entertainment show to where you're going to have different views, different backgrounds. It's going to watch this. How can you have something that mostly everybody can enjoy that? What I saw was clearly only for a certain population, and how is that fair? Then on top of that, you have a language that the majority, we know a lot can speak Spanish, but the majority cannot speak that. We don't know what he's saying. So for the first time, I didn't watch the show. I didn't watch the game. And also this guy, I mean, he's been seen wearing a dress. I'm not for that woke stuff as well. God made the male and female. We can have that debate as well. Then on top of that, his lyrics for some of his songs aren't really that wholesome. So how do I know what he's saying in his lyrics? If he's going to talk about something in his previous songs and put them in here, Kendrick Lamar had to edit out a lot of his curse words for the last Super Bowl. And so what are kids going to do? They're going to look up what he said since they edited it out. And do we want that for our Super Bowl halftime show?
Yeah. And then, Jamal, here's what happens with the Turning Point, as I've been reading, and I watched the Turning Point, and I kept hearing the beeps. And I find out that they were having to beep out bad words themselves. Well, I'm like,
no.
The reason I'm at the Turning Point is because I thought I was going to, I guess I thought I was going to see a Christian concert, and it wasn't. Right. And I've got friends on Facebook who flat out, the moment after watching about 2 minutes of it, said, we're done with this. Not knowing, and I didn't know this, and I'll be honest, as we have this conversation, my wife and I are kind of looking at each other like, what did we just turn to? And I was on TBN, and so I'm like,
oh, man.
Wait a minute, something on this show here, but then it transformed, and then at the end I get the gospel. This guy named Kid Rock, going by another name, his real name, he gives the gospel. He says there's a book in your home that's dusty and it needs to be dusted off. And he's talking about the Bible. And there's this great song out there right now about dusty Bibles. And then there's a man on a cross that you need to take a look at. He'll change your life. And ask Jesus to change your life. Wow. I'm like, what a transformation of a whole show. And I've had... Some people have said that was where they wanted to go, that you are part of the world, and I was part of the world, but now that big question that Robbie has brought to us today, how can I be in the world but not of the world? And I have to set some kind of guidelines. I do want to be in the world where I can reach the world, but I don't want to be in the world where all of a sudden I go back to being like the world. And that's the tough one, isn't it?
So here's a good question for you, Doc, because only you saw this and you were involved in it. That Jerry Falwell, who you worked for many years, was very staunch on the fact that for whatever reason you do not want to postpone Sunday night service, right?
Oh, my gosh. We go back to the 80s. I wonder how many listeners remember back in the 80s. It wasn't a debate over who was playing at halftime and whether you're going to watch the halftime show. It was, are you going to be at church tonight? Because we're not changing the time.
Well, here, I just found this is a fascinating discussion that, you know, and again, along the same lines, but he then got an invitation by Joe Gibbs to be on the sidelines.
Yes, that's what he told us. Joe Gibbs had offered him tickets to be on the sideline and he had not always been he was more of a Cowboys fan than a Redskin fan, but he liked Joe Gibbs. And so he got offered tickets to be on the sideline for this Super Bowl with the Washington Redskins, and he said, I can't do that. I have to be in my pulpit on Sunday night because I have called people, do not do away with your Sunday night service. Because if you go back, Robbie, we go back and you have history. You know about the first Super Bowl. Now, folks, Robbie's a lot older than me. He knows about the first Super Bowl.
I do know about the first Super Bowl. Although
the first Super Bowl I watched was Super Bowl VI. 1971. You watched the 1966, which wasn't called the Super Bowl at that point, but you know about that. And at that point,
I was 10 and a half.
When was the Super Bowl played? At 1 p.m. There was no competition with church on Sunday night.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden they moved the Super Bowl to Sunday night, and churches had all kind of dilemma, and Jerry Falwell did not go to the Super Bowl holding a standard. You're supposed to be in church. Now we don't even hardly have church on Sunday night.
You didn't watch a Super Bowl till 1971?
Well, I was 10 years of age.
We got Jamal, thank you for your call, buddy. I appreciate it so much for your view. God bless you. We got Busman. He's been holding on forever. We got to find out what's going on in the Buskmobile, and because I haven't talked to you forever. Your view, Busman. You still with us? Oh, he may be on mute, and he'll come in at any point in time, or maybe need to call us back if we lost him. I hate that. No. But anyway, Busman, call us back. Tell us what your thoughts were going to be. But
I do find this so interesting, Rob.
So seriously, you didn't watch the Super Bowl until 1971?
No,
No, that's okay. That's all right.
I mean,
but I was.
That's 1970. I mean, I had started watching the Dolphins play, and they beat Kansas City on Christmas night, in the longest game ever played.
And so, how old were you? 10?
Yeah.
And so the difference is I was 10 and a half in the first Super Bowl.
All right, so
same kind of thing.
So it was just starting to. My dad could care less about sports and watch it especially. And but
it's hard to believe it's been 60 years, though. I'll tell
you. I know. And then I started watching again. My team was the Miami Dolphins, and they got beat by the Dallas Cowboys 24-3, and I can't remember a commercial. I can't remember the halftime.
Oh yeah, they had bands. That's how they used to do that. They would have marching bands,
high school bands.
866-348-7884. What say you? How can you, be in the world but not of the world when it comes to secular entertainment like this? This is this huge thing. 127 million people watch this. Yeah. And clearly people, what does it look like to light your light? I do love what Pastor John talked about, of engaging, Puerto Rican folks. Obviously, that was a proud moment for them.
Yeah.
And so, hey, maybe you got a question about what was the number one commercial. I have the information right here for you. It's pretty exciting, I think. 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. We'll be right back with a whole lot more Super Bowl 60.
Truth Talk Live.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Today's show is Super Bowl 60.
It's in the books.
It is. And so what do you think it means, right, for a Christian when it comes to this idea of being in the world but not of the world? When it comes to secular entertainment, like that went on, 127 million people watched this, were involved in it. Where are we? And maybe, a lot of you were in Sunday night service and you feel like that's where you needed to be. I would love your comments, your ideas, even about the commercials or whatever you got. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. One of the great questions, I think, about anything you watch like that is, what was your favorite God moment? I mean, where did you see God show up in the events, or something somebody said, or something you saw that was like, oh man, God, way to go, buddy? And how that felt. But for Doc, you had a good one.
Yeah, I as you watch this, and for me personally, okay, one of the New England Patriots is a graduate of Liberty University, Douglas, number 3. Pops Douglas. Now, he graduated just a couple of years ago. I wasn't his pastor, but again, a lot of Liberty people were excited about him representing more than the New England Patriots, more than himself and his family. He talked about this. There was a whole video put together, and the big deal for him was no Liberty graduate has ever scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So that's what he wanted to do, and to be able to give glory to God. Well, I'm watching that, okay, and he had a really good game. But when the Super Bowl trophy was being presented, I forget the news, the person they had there, Maria, for NBC, is talking to the coach for Seattle. He's the youngest coach ever to win a Super Bowl. And I knew a little bit about the fact that when he first was looking at life, it was not to be a head football coach. He was headed into business. And so she asked him a question about him being the coach and how this happened. And just out of his mouth comes these words, and I'm now quoting, I believe God called me to be a coach, and I listened to him, and I thank him. And I thought, well, wait, I wanted to back that up. What did he just say? It just flowed out so natural. It wasn't staged. She asked him a question, and he said, I believe God called me to be a coach, and I listened to him, and I thank him. And I thought, here's a guy he's seeking to follow God's will. God called me, and I'm doing it. And so for me, that was a great God moment of the whole Super Bowl.
Yeah, what you had said earlier is, a lot of people, they thank God as if he's one of their sponsors, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, I want to thank God. I want to thank, the New England Patriots or whatever, as far as all those things are concerned. But this is really cool, but from another angle, in that it was more of a conversational intimacy with God that he's describing, that he listened, he obeyed, right?
Yeah.
And he's glad he did, and it glorified God in a really cool way. And I personally, and I'm telling you from my perspective, it may have been a Budweiser commercial, but that commercial was it was the number 1 ranked commercial, by the way, and you may just call up and just get mad at me. 866-348-7884, by the way, if you want to. 866-348-7884. But if you might have seen it, it portrayed a baby Clydesdale, which I always thought those horses were really cool. Yeah. Anyway, and this Clydesdale is, hanging out, and this eagle falls out of its nest, and they become friends, and he ends up having this little eagle on his back as he grows, and the eagle gets in the rain, and it's just neat, especially since where I live I see a lot of eagles, and I was familiar with of what an immature eagle would look like, and then at the end, do you remember it, Doc? Did you see it?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it looks like the horse has wings because this eagle takes off from the back of this horse, and when that eagle flies up out, it was a spectacular piece of cinematography, I thought, and I just I was proud to be an American, whatever, and I thought they did a good job of connecting their brand, because Budweiser's always had that eagle in it, and they obviously always have the Clydesdales, and at the same point, it's an American brand.
And it's been one of the hardest things for me because I got saved out of alcohol, okay? So that was one of the things I felt like I had been deceived by those commercials. And alcohol had almost destroyed my life. And so now to celebrate a beer commercial just always, it bothered me. But the other side is, growing up on a farm, those Clydesdales, I couldn't help when I go to the state fairs and stuff, and they're there. I wanted to go see those horses, and I love eagles. And so, yes, I was pretty sure when that commercial was played. I saw a preview of that commercial last week, and I go, it will be number one. It was so well done.
Well, please feel free to call and take me to task. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. It's an interesting challenge, right?
Yeah.
That they're the last thing in the world I would want to see is anybody compromised because of watching a commercial like that. Yet there's aspects of that where, clearly from my perspective, you see some beautiful information. So it looks like somebody may have taken me up. 866-348-7884. But again, therein lies the discussion of how can you be in that?
How can we be in the world
and bring your light to it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, it's a fantastic opportunity. And again, the game itself was part of the whole thing as well, right?
Yeah, and I'm a purist here. I don't like the extended halftime. I don't like all the focus on the commercial. I want to talk about the football game.
Well, we got Robin is in Florida.
Yes.
Maybe that's what she wants to talk about, or maybe she's got something else on her mind. Robin, you're on Truth Talk Live.
Hello.
Hello, Robin.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you great. What have you got for us?
With all of the commercials and everything that happened, I liked the Budweiser commercial and loved it that it celebrated America. And I understand that people have problems with drinking and people that don't, and we all have our vices. So I think that we put so much emphasis on all of these things, and I think that it's not warranted. I just think that it's such a waste of our time. I really do.
Yeah, that's another aspect I think is real. I think if I'm understanding what you're saying, Robin, is that Christians sometimes get this idea of that we're extremely opinionated about such things, and people kind of disregard us because we take a lot of our energy to say this is a horrible thing. Am I saying out of turn of what you're trying to say, Robin?
I do think that I don't know. I think that because my favorite commercial was the Budweiser commercial as well, and I thought it was done well. Yep. And for those people that struggle with drinking, I'm really sorry. I struggle with overeating. So it's all the food.
So there was the commercial.
That was number 2, the Lay's commercial.
The Lay's commercial.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Robin. Oh yeah, and I'll tell a story along these lines. I'll never forget as long as I live. Is that I work for Truth Broadcasting, and so often we do remote broadcasts, right? And we have a van that says Truth on the side of it. And this particular Saturday morning, I was setting up to do a remote at a place called Foot Solutions in a local shopping center in North Carolina. And as I do, this lady comes driving up. And she comes in and she says, "Oh, what are you doing? Let me write you a check. You're raising money, blah, blah, blah." And she starts writing a check. And I don't even know what to do with the fact that she's sitting there at the thing writing a check. And then all of a sudden she realizes that we're Christian. Right now, I have not said anything at this point in time. She says, "Oh, you're Christian. You're haters." And she takes the check, rips it up in front of me, and I'm just standing there like dumbfounded at the whole set of circumstances. And I said, "Ma'am, I don't hate. I mean, you don't know me. There's nobody I hate." Like, what did you say? But there was no convincing her anything other than that she had categorized us in this boat. And sometimes I think when we get too opinionated about such things, that we're not doing our testimony any good. And that's, but I'm with you. I think I'm with you, Robin, along these lines.
Yeah, well, and I personally think the NFL needs to be held accountable for that. The NFL is the one that's supposed to be creating an atmosphere where families can go,
right,
and families can watch football and celebrate your teams. And I don't think that it's. I mean, I'm mad at the NFL.
I get it.
I'm just really mad at them because they're not bringing something that's wholesome. It doesn't have to be, because I'm in my 60s, so rap music is not going to appeal to me. But if it appeals to the people, as long as it's not filthy, and you see what I'm saying?
Oh, I do. I completely do.
Yeah.
And I heard the pastor earlier and all those things along those lines. Your comments are very welcome, Robin. I am so grateful for your call and for your ideas.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless. Have a great evening.
God bless. Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Doc?
Moments like this, we're brought back to, again, what is your filter for how you're going to guard your heart? Now, that's what we're told as Christians, guard your heart. Out of the heart will proceed. My filter, what do I look at? What do I listen to? Who am I going to be learning from? Psalms 1 tells me that I need to be careful of who I associate with. Take precaution. Psalms 1, verse 1. And whether it's the Super Bowl or a movie, TV show, or going out to eat with friends, I've got to have that filter, Robbie.
What say you? 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. A whole lot more on Super Bowl 60.
Truth Talk Live.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Today's question is, what does it mean to be in the world but not of the world when it comes to watching secular entertainment, right? And a lot of us were at, including me, I was at a Super Bowl party last night with some dear friends, right? And, people are all the time, especially if you're a pastor, especially if you're a broadcaster, people are measuring what you say and thinking about, all these things. And your testimony becomes real important. Like, what are you going to say and how are you going to react and all these things. And so, we all need each other's guidance here. Right? That's the reason why I would love to know your view. 866-348-7884. We do have Mike is in Dayton. And so, Mike, what say you, buddy?
Well, I say that when we're born again, we're citizens of heaven and not citizens of the world. So we change our citizenship once we're born again. And then I was pondering this today, and then I was thinking, well, we don't want to be heavenly minded and no earthly good. You know what I mean?
That's a great statement right there, folks.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking, well, how can we be a witness and and also be as well as heavenly minded and be earthly good at the same time. And being close to God solves all that problem. I mean, it really does. And how do you get so close to God? Reading your Bible. That's the Word of God. It comes into your heart. And when it comes into your heart, you can speak the Word to people, and you can have your mindset on heaven. Our pastor, one of our pastors had a sermon the other day, and it was about this world as being like a vapor. And it was a great sermon. And in the world being like a vapor, she gave this illustration of a cathedral over in Europe. And I thought it was a wonderful illustration. They showed pictures of it, and there was a small little door to go into this cathedral, and it was dark and bad, and you couldn't see anything, but you could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then when you got to the end of the tunnel, this cathedral happened. I mean, it was beautiful with gold leaves and, I mean, just unbelievable. Your jaw dropped when you seen the cathedral. And that's life in itself. We live this life really short. It's really short. But what is our end goal? It's our eternal life, and not just in this life. So that's where you need to be heavenly minded to see the cathedral at the end of the tunnel. At the end of your life, where are you going? And a lot of people, that's how they become Christians. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen when I die. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen when I die? Well, reading the Bible tells you that. Understanding the Bible tells you that. Tells you where you're going to go when you die. Understanding the ways of the world, the Bible tells you that. That this life is so short that we shouldn't be in this world. We shouldn't worry about this world. We shouldn't care about the world. We shouldn't, I watched the Super Bowl. I was reading the Bible more than watching the Super Bowl and just looking up occasionally, looking at the score. It was a defensive game, and it was boring.
It was boring if you don't like defense.
Or exactly.
For certain Patriot fans, it was painful.
Painful.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed that part. I mean,
yeah, that was all those kind of.
My wife's a Patriots fan. Way to go, Dr. Carson. She wanted the Patriots to win.
I'm a Dolphin fan, so
yeah.
I like to see the Patriots lose. But, the Bible speaks of us as Christians. You said that. Colossians chapter 3 is that big change, transitional chapter. If you're in Christ, since you're in Christ, set your mind on heavenly things. And the great question that you have to battle through, am I giving myself to something that is temporal, earthly, or am I giving myself to something that is eternal? And how do you redeem the time? And that's why I look for, if you're a Christian, here's a coach who is a Christian trying to seek God's will, and God tells him, I want you to be a coach. And then he listened. That to me is, he's using his Christian life to be something more than just a football coach. He wanted to be where God wanted him to be. That had to impact his players. That, why are you here? Well, I believe God wants me to be here. Okay, what does he want us to do? That's a whole different mindset than let's just play for the glory. Let's just play for the money. Let's play for the one who called us to be here. But yes, setting our minds on heavenly things, but being ambassadors, because we are in the world. We're supposed to be light in this world. We're supposed to be salt in this world. God never called us to, as you said, I love what you said, Mike, to be so heavenly minded we are of no earthly good. We have neighbors next to us. Some of them are widows, and some of them are lonely. Some of them have bills that they can't pay. And we need to be having that mindset of looking out for others and putting our Christianity into action on earth.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you for your call, Mike. We appreciate it very, very much. And your view, 866-348-7884. We got Scott is in Florida. Scott, you're on Truth Talk Live. What say you, Scott?
Yeah, I just want to comment about the Budweiser commercials. How quickly we forget about Budweiser promoting the transitional individual, I think, Malden.
Yeah, the Bud Light, yes.
I still can't get over that, no matter how much they try to, backstep and make amends, so to speak. They never came out, publicly apologized or anything like that. So Budweiser, to put it pun intended, still has a bad taste in my mouth for that. The Christian community definitely, stepped forward and said, hey, that's not right, and their sales just completely tanked from that. And they're trying to recover, and even President Trump says, I think it's time to forgive them. But, at what point would you buy a product knowing that they promoted something within sin or anything like that? That's basically all I got to say in your thoughts.
No, I love it. I absolutely, hadn't really given that a great deal of thought, just from my perspective, and it's my perspective, but that, inside of that commercial was somebody with a great vision. In other words, the people that created, I would never buy any of their products anyway. So they weren't advertising to me in any way, shape, or form. So the commercial was going to have an effect on me personally in one way or the other. But certainly the cinematography, the creativity of it, the beauty of it, to me was worth admiring and saying, wow, that was a beautiful thing to watch. I didn't really connect it to, this is branding for this company that is doing horrible things, blah, 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 blah. But I see your point completely, Scott.
Yeah.
And I think it's extremely valid. It's a shame I'm so short-sighted. It really is.
Yeah. Well, as a total Christian, I have to shout out to everyone that has overcome alcoholism, like my own mother. She is 35 plus years sober, and I just got a shout out to everybody for staying strong and staying off the wagon. Me, myself, I guess I get it from my father, where I can have a beer when I'm barbecuing or a nice drink with a meal on occasion. So, seeing somebody that close to you and see how it affects you, I just want to pray for all you, and we love you.
Thank you, Scott. Again, I really, really appreciate your call, your insight, and God bless you. Have a great evening.
All righty, you too. Thank you.
God bless. Bye-bye. That was awesome, wasn't it?
That was. And again, we're not saying this was our number one commercial, but this is what the general public has now come out and said. And but that Lay's commercial,
The Last Harvest is what that was.
The Last Harvest. When it's now your farm. I got tears. I almost tearing up now thinking about that. That was pretty cool. But again, we're as we come to a close of this show, Robbie, the Super Bowl is forcing us to think through again our Christianity. Where does it lie? And how do I fit into this world, enjoy the things of this world, but not become conformed? I think that's the word that Paul said, didn't he? He said we're not to be conformed to this world. And I think it was Mike put the word in. When the word goes in, you're able to force the world out. You keep the world out. And I want to be a Christian.
And you can do that through the Date the Word app.
Yes.
Daily.
Date the Word app. DateTheWord.com is a website. Yes, get the word in. And let's make the world know about Jesus with a loving spirit.
God bless. So fun. We again appreciate all your calls today. And we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Truth Talk Live. Love your calls.